Hello, everyone. Welcome into Friday's edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well today. Made it to a Friday. Should be a fun show today. Lots to get into. Lots of hockey news from overnight. Matt Wright, great podcast guest, great friend, and a guy who knows a thing or two about sports. He's going to join me in about 40 to 45 minutes. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things. We're going to talk some college hoops with March Madness starting a week yesterday. We'll talk about the conference tournament games, which have been just wild, with Illinois losing today, Auburn. Both these teams could have been number one seed. So where does that go? We'll also talk some football. Lots of trades, free agency starting next week, so we'll get his takes. And we'll also talk about his New York Rangers, what he wants to see them do at the deadline. Do they get JT? What's happening there? We'll also touch on that as we get closer to the NHL trade deadline. But let's start today with, the Eastern Conference is really quite benign. It's, who's going to make the playoffs. There's no real suspense. There's nothing that's really that interesting about it. You see there's panic in Leaf land because they're losing some games. They can't get a stop. I do think there's legitimacy to that, but you're also making the playoffs. So is it real panic or just we can't win a Stanley Cup? Well, I probably could have told you that a long time ago. But in the West, it's so much more interesting to me because there's races for the wild card, there's races for playoff spots, and normally you see a Dallas sitting there. And you're like, well, that's not a big surprise. Dallas fighting for a playoff spot. They shouldn't be a lock to get in. No big surprise. You see Nashville sitting there. That's no lock. Nashville, they're a team that, nobody expected. Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene, some of these players that bounced back seasons after their careers look like they were going down the toilet. But at this point in the season, when you see the Vegas Golden Knights, Minnesota Wild, and Edmonton Oilers fighting tooth and nail to make the playoffs, it raises your antenna. It makes you think a little bit more. And let's start with the Vegas Golden Knights. The game of the night last night was Colorado, Carolina, but I do want to touch on Vegas and their story right now, the narrative that the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights have lost two of their last three. They've lost to Philly in that span. They've lost to Buffalo last night, and they beat Ottawa with a goal with about 6 seconds left in the game. So they played three teams that are going to be in the lottery, three teams that are quite terrible in the standings, and they've barely gotten by one, and they've lost to two. And currently, the Vegas Golden Knights sit third in the Pacific Division. Only 2 points up in the Edmonton Oilers. Well, Edmonton has a game in hand. Not to mention, the Edmonton Oilers will have 2 games in hand tonight after Vegas plays the Pittsburgh Penguins. But really, this is Jack Eichel's team. Mark Stone's the captain, but he's not playing. He's on injured reserve. He's hurt. He's got a hip problem or a back problem, and that's legitimate. But when he's not playing, sure, Alex Pietrangelo has to carry the load. But I look at Vegas, and last night was really an indictment on Jack Eichel. You return to the scene of the crime, the team that drafted you, the team you couldn't wait to get away from, which I don't blame him, by the way. I wouldn't blame Owen Power for playing another year at Michigan. But Jack Eichel got out of Buffalo. He got the surgery he wanted. He showed up in Vegas, and now we expected Vegas to go on a tear, to start winning games, to be a cup contender this season. But as you just mentioned, they sit in a position where they are 2 points clear of missing the playoffs right now. They are battling with the likes of Dallas, with Edmonton on their heels, and you see teams like the LA Kings sit above them. Calgary Flames sit above them. Beginning of the season, nobody saw this coming. But You can point to goaltending. Well, I'm not going to point to goaltending because the last 3 games, they've won 2-1, lost 2-1, lost 2-1. That's not 2 goals a game is very good. Laurent Brossoit started 2 of those games. But Vegas can't score. 4 goals in 3 games. Jack Eichel, pointless in his last 2. He's only playing 18 minutes a night. And to make matters worse, in his return to Buffalo last night, the only thing of notoriety that he did was complain about the Buffalo fans booing him. It wasn't that he didn't play well or that the team lost. He had to throw a dig at the Buffalo fans for seeming loud for the first time that he was there his entire time he was present in Buffalo. He had to say, oh, the crowd was finally loud. I finally heard them after all my time here. That wouldn't be my approach. I'd be more focused on trying to win the game, trying to make an impact, trying to make it seem like you give a shit. Because Jack Eichel has 7 points in 11 games. Quite frankly, that's not good enough. Is he coming off a serious injury? Yes. But you're coming into a situation where the team has to make the playoffs. The team did not play well without you. You are the piece that they needed. You're the last piece of the puzzle. You're the most important piece. And you've acted like a second-line center so far. Second, third-line center. Austin Matthews is not playing 18 minutes a night. Jack Eichel played 17:46 last night. And those 17:46 were pretty irrelevant. Buffalo's won some games, but I don't want to hear about Buffalo. I don't want to hear, oh, they're a tougher opponent than people think. Buffalo stinks. Craig Anderson was in net. That's all you need to know about the Buffalo Sabres. But for Vegas, this is pressure times 100. Because I think Peter DeBoer is a really good coach. He got to a conference final last year. He's been to a Stanley Cup final in San Jose. Stanley Cup final in New Jersey. I think he'll get a job in a minute if he's fired. The way Vegas has done business, the way it's gone, I think if Peter DeBoer misses the playoffs, or quite frankly, gets beat in the first round, I think there's a good chance he gets fired. I think he could be out of Vegas. They're searching for a new coach. They have to offload contracts. The Robin Leonard deal looks like the Robin Leonard contract is going to have to be like the Marc-Andre Fleury one where you're just trying to get rid of it. And you're stuck with the Jack Eichel making $10 million, Mark Stone, and a bunch of players you're looking at, can we really win with this group? Now, this can all be put to bed. But I've watched a lot of Vegas hockey lately. They don't play with structure. They don't create high-scoring opportunities. And they're not playing well against teams that are going to miss the playoffs. This week, they had a great schedule on paper. Philly, Ottawa, Buffalo. You get 2 out of possible 6 points. That should be 6 out of 6 every time. Juxtaposing it, Toronto Maple Leafs are having their dream week when it comes to opponents. You get Seattle, Columbus, Arizona. For all the mass panic, they took 5 out of 6 points. That's pretty good. And they're in a much better situation because they know they're going to make the playoffs. It's unlikely Boston catches them for the 3rd seed. Jonathan Marchessault is a good player. Chandler Stevenson's a good player. But Jack Eichel is the man. 2nd overall pick. Some people see him as I heard at times he was the top 10 player in the world. Well, we haven't seen that in Buffalo. We haven't seen it in Vegas. I've never seen that from him. I've always thought he was a good player, not a great one. So this could be a moot point if they make the playoffs. But it's no guarantee the Vegas Golden Knights will. Because to me, you've had your easy schedule. You've had your layup of teams. They are on a back-to-back in Pittsburgh tonight, and Robin Leonard got sent home early because he's dealing with an injury. Meaning he's not feeling well. Meaning he's injured. So where do we go from here? What's the future of Robin Leonard? Is the starting goaltender Laurent Brossoit the rest of the season? I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. Is it Logan Thompson, who's playing in the American League? So you can't score. You have question marks in net. There's nothing to be excited about in this team. Now, you could look at it glass half full and say, we're only 4 points back of LA. Okay? I don't look at it that way. You're a team that's elite. At least you should be on paper. And you have, after tonight, you'll have 22 games remaining on your schedule. And you'll only be a few points in on a playoff spot. They lose tonight in regulation. Edmonton will have 2 games in hand and only 2 points back. But Vegas is the team I'm most concerned with because they can't buy a win right now. A team I thought that would be comfortably in the playoffs as well is the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota was chugging at the beginning of the year. Kirill Kaprizov was building off his great rookie season, playing fantastic, top 10 in points, getting solid goaltending, solid back end, and they started to crater. And over the last month and change, this team was losing. They got drubbed twice by the Calgary Flames, both 5+ goal losses. And to Minnesota's credit, they found their game a bit. They've won their last 2 games by scores 6-5 and 5-4. They're scoring in bunches. Matthew Boldy, a call-up from Boston College because of COVID in early January, has never been sent down. He had another 2-goal performance last night. He's been fantastic. But Capo Kakinen, Cam Talbot can't make a save right now. And you could say, well, Brodin's been out. Matthew Dumba's been hurt. That's all true. That could all be used as a valid excuse. But at the same time, you're left looking at it saying, well, you can score a lot of goals. You got a heavy team. Maybe you're better off suited for the playoffs, which I don't think isn't true, but they're also a team that hasn't had playoff success. They're also a team they lost to Vegas in the first round last year. And do you trust Cam Talbot to turn it on in the playoffs? Quite frankly, I don't. So Vegas has goalie problems. They can't score. Minnesota is the complete opposite. They score in bunches. They can't make a save. They can't play good defensive structured hockey. Now, Minnesota's in a better position. They are 2 points back of St. Louis right now. They also have a game in hand on St. Louis. If they win tonight in Columbus, they'll tie for second in the Central, which is a good position. But you look at it again, Nashville's only a point back of Minnesota. Nashville's on a heater right now. They're playing really good hockey. Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, Philip Forsberg. The more you look at teams that you think would have been sellers, that you think wouldn't have been in the playoffs, I don't know who's going to be a seller. I don't think Nashville can trade Philip Forsberg. I think you keep him. We've seen in Dallas today. Dallas Stars are a point inside the playoffs right now over the Edmonton Oilers for the second wildcard spot. They re-up Joe Pavelski. Joe Pavelski signs a 1-year, $5.5 million deal to remain in Dallas. He would have been a guy I would love to acquire at the deadline. But that signing to me tells me a couple things. Tells me Joe Pavelski loves it in Dallas, which I think we already knew. But also that this Dallas team believes that they're going to make the playoffs and believes that they're going to be competitive next year. And also, Joe Pavelski's 37, and he leads the Dallas Stars in points. And his 2 line mates are second and third on the team in points, in Jason Robertson and Rupe Hintz, having career seasons. But they're a team. John Klingberg, will he be moved? I have my doubts. I've been saying this all week. Pavelski's not going to be traded. I doubt they trade Radulov now. So teams at one point we said, well, maybe this team will be a seller. Maybe they'll move a player. I'm not so sure. Vancouver keeps winning. They got Washington tonight. JT Miller continues to play extremely well. They're trailing Dallas. After Vancouver's game tonight, Dallas will have 3 games in hand. But Vancouver's not going to quit. Vancouver, the win tonight, will be 2 points behind Vegas if they lose to Pittsburgh. So right in the thick of it, right there with Edmonton. But Vegas, Minnesota, Edmonton. To say these 3 teams are the teams fighting for a wild card spot, fighting for a playoff spot, while teams like LA, Nashville, even St. Louis in a way are sitting comfortably. I wouldn't have predicted that come the beginning of the year. The Oilers more than the other 2. But even so, the Edmonton Oilers have, you could argue, I'm not going to talk about who I think, still think McDavid's the best player on the planet. McDavid's the best player, Matthews the best player this year. No doubt about it. But I don't think Matthews is better than McDavid on a yearly basis. But to think we got McDavid, you have Draisaitl. Top 5 players. I don't think that's crazy to say. And the fact that you're sitting outside the playoffs with 20 games to play in a season, that's crazy talk. Who saw that coming? Who would have predicted that? And for all these teams, you see all these teams that have goaltending issues. Goaltending is a lot like quarterback. You can make so many correlations, but there's not so many goalies that are good that you want. You look at Minnesota. They kill for a goalie. They have cap problems. They can't afford to take on Marc-Andre Fleury. He's the only goalie. I look around, that's the only goalie I want. Georgiev is not going to win you a Stanley Cup. Acquiring Georgiev, you might as well stay with Cam Talbot because he was a backup in the Rangers once. He's the same person. Nashville is going to make the playoffs. I'm not trading Saros. Vancouver's not moving Demko. Anaheim's not moving John Gibson. Winnipeg's not trading Hellebuck. You could go down the list. Fleury's the only guy. Is he going to want to move? So for all these teams that, we need goaltending help. You reap what you are. You have your goaltending. If you think of somebody, leave it in the comments that I'm missing. But I look like these guys that are backup or fringe starters. They're going to win you a cup. I'm sorry. Like acquiring Braden Holtby from Dallas. He's not starting in Dallas. Jake Ottinger is a kid. That tells you all you need to know. Getting a elite goaltender, you don't part with them for nothing. You don't just say, this team's, we're going to miss it. Let's trade them. No, that's not how it works. And I feel like if you've gotten this far in the season and you believed your goaltending was good enough to at least get you to the playoffs, you look at a team like Toronto, Minnesota. I'm sure I'm missing a team when it comes to goaltending woes. You could argue Colorado in a sense. These teams believe that their goaltending could win them a Stanley Cup, or why even go all in? Why make the moves that they have made to be competitive and to play? So it can only be one of 2 things. You had a bad read, and you're not that good at knowing your goaltending, or is your team just not good enough? You need to improve it. Like, for instance, Toronto's the easiest one. I think Toronto's goaltending is decent. I never thought it was as good as people talked about early in the season. Jack Campbell's a good goalie. He's a fringe starter. He's no better than that. He had a great start, hot start to the season, made the All-Star game. I'm not taking anything away from him. But, he's not Vasilevsky. He's not goalie Bob. He's average. He's league average, which is fine. But you can only play out of your mind so long when your defense core and, quite frankly, your forward group doesn't help you. It's about being aware of your team and what the deficiencies are. Like Minnesota, you're a heavy, heavy team. Back check. I haven't seen that the last couple. That's why you're losing games. You're scoring a ton of goals. You're not playing defensive hockey. It's run and gun off, coming off the wings. They're fast and big, but they make poor decisions. Defense jump into plays. They get caught. It ends up in the back of the net. Toronto. Teams know what they have to do. Cycle the puck a few times. You see guys get out of position. Travis Dermott gets lost on the ice, doesn't know who he's covering. His man gets in front of the net. It's in the back of the net. Or you don't box out a guy in front. Shot from the point, gets tipped, changed direction. It goes in. Now, are there going to be goals? That's the goalie's fault? Of course. It's life. But more often than not, it's these teams where you go, well, that might not have went in if we just made a better play there. If I was in position, maybe I could have avoided that. But that's never the narrative. That's never what's taught. It's just, it's the goal. We got a goaltending issue. Well, do you? Or do you have a team problem? Goalies can make up for deficiencies, for sure. But you're telling me that Tampa Bay only won the last couple of years because of Vasilevsky? Nobody's a bigger Vasilevsky fan than me, but Ryan McDonough is a flat-out stud. He blocks shots. He gets in lanes. He boxes out forwards. He does the stuff that you don't realize on a stat sheet. He doesn't get even 3/4 of the credit that Victor Hedman does. But he's part of a winning team. He has the same amount of rings. Eric Chernak, same thing. It's just about buying and playing that style. Sometimes it's just about want. It's just, I want it more than them. I think Tampa wants it more last couple of years. Braden Point gets in the blue paint, scores goals. Last year he scored 13 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. 10 of them were inside the paint. Because he had the balls to go in there. He wanted the puck more than the opposition. They didn't box him out. He wasn't afraid to get whacked, to get hit around. That was about effort. That was about, I want to win this Stanley Cup. And that's the thing that doesn't come up on a stat sheet. You can't measure effort. You can't quantify balls and guts. You can measure expected goals and expected saves, and you can get all the numbers till you're fucking blue in the face. But you look at the teams that have been projected to win the last couple of years that didn't. I look at Colorado. Toronto always gets thrown in there because they get talked about every day, so you got to throw them in. Edmonton. Edmonton should have beat Winnipeg. I mean, come on. We all know this. Edmonton played harder. They wanted it more. Colorado. Vegas grinded them into the ice. Colorado didn't fight hard enough for the middle. They didn't fight hard enough to have puck possession to get high-quality scoring chances. What happens? Vegas wins the series. Upset. Colorado should have won the cup. And it'll be labeled as, a shock series and Colorado choked. Maybe they just didn't want it as much as the opposing team. That's more often than not what it is. There are blown assignments in sports, of course. Galchenyuk putting it on a tee for the opposition in the playoffs for Toronto. Goalies misplaying pucks. A bad goal going in. But more often than not, these skilled teams or these teams with high profile, they should have got here. They should have did this. Maybe they just don't have the guts to do it in the postseason. Maybe it's not, they hit 40 posts. I don't care how many posts you hit. You can use that as an excuse after the fact. Sure, if that makes you feel better about yourself, do it up. Or maybe it's just, the other team wanted it more than us. We played hard, but they played harder. That's an option too. And it never gets talked about. Like Edmonton. Their night against Washington, they played hard. They wanted that win. Guys like Brad Malone went in corners. They fought. They hit. They played with a sense of desperation. McDavid said it after the game. He said, it was a must-win for us. We needed to win this game. Concur. 3 weeks prior to this, how many games did they play like that? Not enough. Not enough where he said, we need to win tonight. And if I need to go in the corner to get a puck, take a hit to make a play, I'll do it. They didn't do that enough. They just flat out didn't. For Vegas, Eichel. How about getting a shot opportunity that isn't 25 feet away from the net? How about fight for that ice? How about worry less about the crowd booing you and more about helping the team you're currently on win? Move past the Buffalo era of Jack Eichel. Move past that you were second overall and you never lived up to expectations. That doesn't have to be your full story. You get moved to Vegas, you go win a Stanley Cup, you're the man, who knows, win a Conn Smythe? That Buffalo chapter is over. It's done. Here's an example. And this guy didn't win a cup, but I think he changed his narrative. How many people reference that Eric Lindros didn't go to the Quebec Nordiques? That's not the first thing you think of when you think of Eric Lindros. You think of a human specimen, that could not be stopped on the ice. That was stronger, that was more skilled, that is, in his prime, before the concussions, was truly one of the most dominant athletes in the history of professional sports. It wasn't that, he didn't go to Quebec and, he's petty and, he's a kid, he shouldn't be doing this. Who thinks of John Elway that way? Does anybody remember that John Elway did not want to go to the Houston Oilers? Does anybody recall that? That Eli Manning refused to go to San Diego and they had to flip him to the Giants for Phillip Rivers? No, Eli Manning is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. John Elway, 2-time Super Bowl champion. These things can be rewritten. Your history can be rewritten. If you become a player that is worth writing, if your career has nothing, it's like an obit. If you have nothing good, positive to add from your life, and you have one little negative bit that's interesting, what's going to be written? The negative bit. Because I've written an obituary. I had to do it in university. They're tough, by the way. But when you put in interesting information. It's like writing. It's like a podcast. You don't want to talk about bland shit. What might be interesting here? We're going to put that at the top. Okay, he went to the square dance in 2003. Who gives a shit? Okay, he did this really terrible thing. Yeah, we're putting that in 100%. That will be your identity. That will be your story unless you make it something different. These players I just mentioned rewrote their history, made it different. It wasn't, this negative thing, or, he's such a pretty boy, he wanted to do this. It was champion. It was champion. It was maybe if Scott Stevens doesn't take his head off, maybe he could have been better than Wayne Gretzky. Maybe. That's what we think of. That's what can happen. Some people would argue Brad Marchand will be remembered as a pest. Be remembered for licking people. I don't think so. He's going to be remembered as a Hockey Hall of Famer. He's going to be remembered as a Stanley Cup champion. He's going to be remembered as one of the greatest players to ever come from the Maritimes. Crosby, Marchand, McKinnon, they're all going to come in together. Like PK Subban. I don't think he's going to be remembered as a slew foot artist. That's the back half of his career. He has a wing in the Montreal Children's Hospital. It's pretty good to put in an obit. It's pretty good to put in somebody's bio. That's what I think he'll be remembered for. Winning a Norris Trophy. Maybe people didn't like him. Leaf fans didn't like him. Good. You're not supposed to like him. He plays for Montreal. I wouldn't care if you did either. But Jack Eichel's a really good player. I think he's got way more than he's shown so far in his career. I remember he had that 90-point season. I'm like, okay, there we go. But you've seen what guys like Matthews have done to improve their game, being a high pick. McDavid even's improved his game, 5-on-5 and 200 feet. Not as much as Matthews, but he has improved it. For Eichel to truly get there, he got 90 points in Buffalo, but they missed the playoffs by 25 points. So it's a 90-point season that has no fruit, that has no bearing. It's very much empty calories. So can he rectify? I think he can. But it's more about mentality. It's about, I'm going to do this. Not, I want to do. No, do it. Not, okay, just go do it on the ice. These other guys did. Because I'm going to be remembered for this. No. You're remembered for the positive attributes that you brought to the game that you played. Not the negative. But, again, I look at these three teams. Vegas, Minnesota, Edmonton. They're under immense pressure. If I had to rank them from 1 to 3 when it comes to making the playoffs, I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go Minnesota, even though they're a really good team and they should make the playoffs. But I think they're under the third most pressure because they moved out some players. They have some dead cap on their books, and they just locked up Kaprizov, so they have him under contract. But I don't think they're as, elevated as the other two teams. So I have them number 3 when it comes to the pressure rate of the Western Conference teams. 2, I have Edmonton. Edmonton's 2 for me because, yes, they have McDavid and they have Draisaitl. They're under immense pressure to make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. That organization, Ken Holland, I think will be fired if they miss. But I can't put them 1 because Vegas went all in. They've been going all in since day one. They traded the Flower for nothing. They kept Robin Leonard. They acquired Jack Eichel. They move in contracts. They've offloaded Stastny. And they trade veterans left and right to try to get better. And you got Pietrangelo on the team. You got Eichel. You got Mark Stone. You got Jonathan Marchessault. Shea Theodore. You've pushed all in. And this team's not just under pressure to make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. Like I said off the top, if Vegas misses the playoffs or even loses in the first round, I believe Peter DeBoer will be fired. Because this team is better than that. They should have higher expectations. They should have more goals than that. Edmonton's under pressure. David Bowie style. But they're not better than Vegas. They just aren't. They don't have better goaltending. They don't have better depth. And I would say that the star players of the Vegas Golden Knights, excluding Eichel, Stone, Marchessault, Bill Karlsson, Pietrangelo, these guys dig in. They've been through playoff wars. They haven't gotten all the way. They got to a Stanley Cup final and lost to the Oilers and lost to the Caps in 18. But they've been there. They battled. This 17 team is very green. They're very novice. Now, can they come out the other side? Can they make it work? Potentially. We'll have to wait and see on that because, again, interesting down the stretch. Edmonton's going to have games in hand. Vegas is playing a lot of hockey. They're finishing up an East Coast swing tonight in Pittsburgh. They got to win that game. They got to win that game. Because even on a back-to-back with a goalie, Vegas plays in Columbus on Sunday. So they're still out east. But you can't give up games that easy. You need to find it. You need to get some wins here as we head down the stretch. But interesting to see what happens when it comes to the Western Conference, Pacific, and wildcard races, because it's really quite clear what's transpiring in the Eastern Conference. Now, last night there were some really good games. I watched a lot of Carolina, Colorado. First of all, what a game. Carolina comes out of the gate just firing some big saves from Pavel Francouz early in the game. Then Colorado starts turning it on. They get a couple of power plays. Antti Raanta is playing fantastic. It was a battle of the backups last night. But eventually Carolina breaks through in a goal by Ethan Bear. You got Sebastian Aho get the empty netter. And I look at last night's game, even though it's a battle of the backups, Antti Raanta's made the last 4 starts with Freddie Anderson a little banged up. He's playing fantastic. But the more I watch Carolina play, the more I like them. This team is just really, really good, if you ask me. And that's not a shock. I mean, they're first in the Metropolitan Division. But they went up against Colorado, the big bad wolf of the league. Top in the league, Colorado. Can't do no wrong. And they beat them. And just for context, Carolina's only 2 points back of Colorado now, as is Florida. And Carolina has 2 games in hand. So they're right there. They're playing that good of hockey, but they're so structurally sound. They're so smart. What I need to see from I want to see them make a move at the deadline. And what's becoming the more, I wanted to even write on Facebook last night or tweet out, just start the Jacob Chychrun to Toronto trade rumors, write that piece on The Athletic, James Myrtle, or, those Leaf fanatics, just write that piece. But I think Chychrun's going to go somewhere. I think the ask for him is going to be high. Like I said, Klingberg might not move. So puck-moving, offensive-minded defensemen are going to be at a premium. Mark Giordano's at a different stage of his career. He's 38 years old. Chychrun has term. Arizona will want a big package for him. If I look at Carolina, wow, they got a really good decor with Slavin, Pesce, Tony DeAngelo, Ian Cole, Ethan Bear. If you could even add a Chychrun, and I'm not saying they have to add a defenseman. They could add another forward. That wouldn't hurt them either. But if a team like Carolina, Toronto, of course, maybe they'll pull it off. I even think of Florida will be in the market for Chychrun because they believe they can win a Stanley Cup. That's not a crazy thought. If they could add another defenseman, potentially knock Gustav Forsling out of the lineup so he could be your 7th defenseman. And you have Montour, you have Ekblad, you have Weegar, and you add Chychrun to that mix with Radko Gudas. I mean, that is going to be a formidable defensive core. And to me, it's just, where does Jacob Chychrun end up? And I think Carolina will make a trade-off. They need to do something at the deadline. They don't like to spend a whole lot of money. We know that. But I do think you got to look at this team and say, Brendan Moore's doing it again. He's doing a fantastic coaching job. Guys we brought in are playing hard. Kotkaniemi's playing his role. Jordan Stahl's still playing really well. Our goaltending's superb. We got a great team. But can we do something to help this team? You got to look at it and say, we can win a cup this year. This is our window. Let's go do it. Florida, same thing. To beat Tampa, and Tampa's second in the Atlantic, they're only a point up on Toronto right now for second. But it doesn't matter. They could be on the road to play Toronto in the first round. I know who I'm taking in the series as of right now. Teams need to look at it and say, we need to boost this lineup enough to get past the sleeping giant that is the Tampa Bay Lightning. What do we need to do? You need to figure that out. What's the move? Tampa likely won't make any big moves because they don't have the cap room. But Florida, Carolina, New York, what's on the table for you? What move can you make to put yourself in the best position to win come playoff time? And as I saying this, I see our guest is on the line, so I'm going to bring him in. joining for the first time since the move. Good friend of the podcast, Champions Hockey director, and just overall good guy. Matt Wright, writer. Good to see you, my friend.
Awesome. Congratulations on the new setup, and thanks for having me on, and looking forward to talking some college basketball, some New York Rangers, some NFL, a little bit of everything today. So looking forward to hopping into it, and congratulations again on the new setup here.
No, I appreciate it, my friend. Let's start with your Rangers, because I was just talking hockey for a second. What do you want to see them do at the deadline? If it was a Matt Wright wish list, what's your number one thing for the Rangers?
Well, I think as a Rangers fan, you're happy with how the year's gone. I mean, you look at what they've done. Definitely, I think goaltending, they're set. Then no need to make a move there. They got arguably the best goalie in the league right now, and Gorgiev's a great backup, and just in case something happens to Shesterkin. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen. If Shesterkin gets hurt, you can probably count the Rangers season over. I'd like to see them add a 3-4 defenseman. I like the combination of Lindgren and Fox. I mean, yes, you'd like to say I'd love to add a top 2D, but realistically, it's probably not going to happen at the trade deadline. But if they could get a 3-4, potentially move Keandre Miller down to the 5-6. Not saying he's playing bad. I just think he'd make him for a really good 5-6 if he's there. It would really give them 3 solid units. Right now, I think their 5-6 is not up to champion caliber. Not saying those players haven't done what they need to do, but they could add, I mean, a Klingberg would be awesome. If they could add Chychrun. I mean, everyone's after Chychrun, right? He's the hottest piece, so you might have to give up a lot. They do have 2 second-round picks and a first-round pick, so they do have, and they do have some players in the minors too. So they can afford to move away some picks. The other thing I'd like to see is potentially a top 9 forward. So not a top 6, but someone to fill in that third line role. I think they could use Capo Caco. Really hasn't played that well this year. He's still hurt, but I think they could still use someone to help with the third line. I think their fourth line's pretty solid, but to me, if you were on the shopping list, it's you're definitely adding. You're not subtracting at the deadline, and I think you're adding a top 9, probably third line left wing, or third line left wing would be nice. Potentially a third line center, and then a 3-4 defenseman.
Right. I floated this earlier it might have been last week now. Like a Patrick Kane, big, huge trade. And the Rangers had the money to do it. Yep. The Blackhawks could eat some of it as well. And like you said, they got some players, they got prospects. I whether Kane would waive, I think he would waive to go to New York to play with Panarin, play with some familiarity. It's a great city. I'd be making that call if I'm Chris Drury.
Well, the one thing that Patty Kane has always said is the favorite player he ever played with was Panarin.
Right.
He loved playing with Panarin. He couldn't believe that Patty Kane was pissed off that they got rid of Artemi Panarin. You know what? The Rangers have $6.2 million in cap space right now. They do have options to make a move. They have, like you said, they have players, they have picks. I mean, I would love to see it. You look at, they can afford to potentially get rid of, maybe even a Lafreniere. I
would trade Lafreniere to get Patrick Kane.
I think if you went Lafreniere, a first and a second, and
Kravtsov.
Yeah, you could put Crafts. I mean, he's sitting doing nothing right now.
Right.
Overseas. Yeah, they have options there. I don't see it happening.
No.
But I say that because I don't want to get my hopes up that something like that could happen, right? If it did, obviously I'd be pumped. But I can't sit here and say, I think it's going to happen, because you don't see too many blockbuster deals like that, happen in today's NHL. It's hard with the cap, with the salary cap, but the Rangers have cap space and they're ahead of schedule. They're in a spot and they have a good team. And to me now, it's win now. It's not look toward next year. It's they have a team that can. The Eastern Conference is anyone's game, in my opinion. I think it's wide open. I think Tampa and Florida are a little bit better than everyone else, but the Rangers hopefully won't match up with Tampa or Florida in the first round. So
Right.
I think if you can avoid the Florida teams, those two, and if you can avoid them and Carolina in the first round, I think the Rangers can win a first round, and then anything can happen after that.
So you like their chances against the Pens?
I do like their chances against the Pens. Don't get me wrong, the Pens are a great team. Crosby's on fire. Crosby is completely back. For anyone who says Crosby's, over the hump, like, stop talking hockey, stop watching hockey. Sidney Crosby's on an absolute heater right now. Malkin's back. I think Pittsburgh's just a team. You look at their roster and like, I just don't think their roster's good enough. But they have two leaders and Chris Letang's playing great hockey too. They have players who have won Stanley Cups. So when you have Sidney Crosby on your team, anything can happen. But I like the Rangers more than I like the Pens.
Yeah, I do too, slightly. I like their goaltending more, obviously. And I always thought the Rangers would go get JT Miller. But I don't think Vancouver's going to trade him anymore, unfortunately, because I think that would have been a pretty seamless trade, seamless transition. JT Miller's played there before, so it wouldn't be something he's not familiar with. But there's so many guys, there's so many teams that are still in it that you're like, well, are they going to move? Are they in? And the Rangers might be stuck with saying, okay, we'll go get like a Rickard Rakell or something like that. And that's not a bad trade, but it's definitely less than a Kane or a JT Miller that potentially could be in play.
Exactly. And looking at the East, I'd say the teams right there, I know Columbus is making a push, but I'd say the 8 teams that are in right now are the 8 teams that are making it. I don't see anyone sliding in. The West is a completely different story. There's especially in the Pacific. The Pacific's awful. So there's potential for even Vancouver to slide in. I don't see it happening, but if I'm Vancouver, why the hell would you want to trade JT Miller? He's going out and just dominating every game, and he's leading by example. He's, you talk about a guy you want to be leading your team right there. Like what he's bringing every night. Like, why do you want to get rid of that? If you don't have to get rid of it, why get rid of it?
Yeah, I agree. I think if Horvat wasn't there, he's your captain. He plays his guts out every night, and for the beginning of the year, Pettersson, all these guys did, and he didn't give up. He played, he called them out. He really sparked this comeback. But yeah, who's in a bigger trouble right now, Ryder? Because I think it's an easy answer, but it's all about media and talk. Oilers or Leafs?
Oh man, it's the Oilers.
Yes,
it's
right.
The Oilers.
That's the right answer. But if you ask anybody in the media, it's the Leafs.
It's the Oilers. It's not even a question who's in trouble. The Leafs are going to make the playoffs
by 25 points.
Like there's obviously they can't stop a beach ball right now, right? They're struggling in nets, but you have time to figure it out because they're going to make the playoffs. Like I would like to think one of these guys in the next 30 games is going to figure it out. And you're not trading for a goaltender. Everyone's like, oh, the Leafs need to trade for a goaltender.
No. And who are you trading for? Other than Fleury, who's going to be better than what they have?
Jack Campbell, I know he hasn't played a full season in this amount of games, but he was just at the All-Star game. Like, what are we doing here? Like, he's going to figure it out. And even if he doesn't figure it out, what you're trading for is probably not much better. And they need defense. Like, why would you want to move and try and bring in a goalie when Rasmus Sandin is going -2 and 3 every night? Like, they have problems with their 5-6. You think the Rangers have a bad 5-6? The Leafs 5-6 is terrible in their own end. Like they need defense. So to me, but they're not in we say that. I think that people are saying they're in trouble because the East is probably tougher than the West.
Right.
But I mean, the Oilers aren't even in a playoff spot right now. They are leaking oil, no pun intended. Since they started at like 11-1, but the Oilers I just can't figure them out in the sense that you have 2 of probably the top 5 players. You have the best player in the league and probably the 3rd or 4th best player in the league. You still year after year just have the same flaws. It's
really baffling.
It's baffling. And if you're Connor McDavid, man, his time, like if I'm him, I'm asking for a trade. If they don't make playoffs this year, I maybe have 1 year left, but at some point, Connor McDavid is going to take Ovi. Take Ovi, for instance. Everyone was saying, Ovi's great, but he's never won a cup. No one says that about LV anymore. Once
No.
you get one, you're golden. Connor McDavid needs a Stanley Cup.
Agreed.
So
Yeah,
they need
totally
to
agree.
figure something out there. Edmonton's in way more trouble than Toronto.
Yeah, because I think if they miss the playoffs, they're going to fire Ken Holland for sure, because that's what teams do. But I think McDavid, it's always, well, the nice Canadian will never ask for a trade out of a market. Okay, well, Lindros did. He didn't show up to get back. Like, and if I'm an athlete now, and we talk about college athletics all the time, Ryder, there's the transfer portal. If I see a transfer portal for guys that haven't done anything like Bo Nix, I could give a shit about asking for a trade if I'm Connor McDavid. Get me the hell out of here. I want to win something.
Yeah, it's not like it's been 1 or 2 years. He's been there 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's in his prime right now. Like,
yep.
He's dominating every game he plays. Like, he's the best player in the league. Austin Matthews is having an amazing year. Don't get me wrong, Austin Matthews is scoring goals every night. But I'd still take Connor McDavid over Austin Matthews.
Agreed.
Connor McDavid needs to find a way to play on a better, whether it's in Edmonton or not. I hope it's in Edmonton, because you don't like seeing, a talent like his asked to leave and they don't want to trade him, obviously.
For sure.
But you want to see the guy get a Stanley Cup, because he is that good. He deserves, not saying yes, no, I'm saying he deserves one. So hopefully it happens. But this year, I don't even know if they make the playoffs. It's just, every night it's a different story. Like, you don't know what you're getting with that team. It's Jekyll and Hyde out there.
And you see, like, a team like LA, if they made it over Edmonton, that's such an indictment, because quite frankly, LA just works harder than Edmonton.
Yeah.
They want it more. I see Edmonton as a team too often. There's nights, like, I watched the game Wednesday. I thought they really competed hard. Like, they wanted to win that night. But too often they don't go in the corner, or they don't care. And LA every night, they got a point. They lost last night, but they got a point against San Jose. Bad team, but they still got a point. They grind. They find a way to keep it close. And I think too many times Edmonton just plays a lackadaisical style, and the game's out of their hands before they even know it.
Exactly. I think you take LA Boston the other night.
Yeah.
Boston outplayed LA. They hung around, scored a late one, and won in overtime. Like, that's the stuff that playoff teams do. They find a way to win close games where Edmonton just has struggled. And you know what? The goaltending's actually been a little better. Like, Koskinen's playing
well lately.
Playing well. So it's like, you can't blame it on the goaltending anymore. So it's, I mean, Ken Holland, he's on thin ice. But, I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, he might as well just pack his stuff the last game of the year and go home and move, because he'll be fired. But it's tough to see in Edmonton, because a couple of years ago, I think 3 years ago, they went to the conference final, or they made it to the second round. I think it was conference
second round, game 7. Yeah, against Anaheim.
Second round, that's right. And it just hasn't gone anywhere since.
No. With the deadline a little over a week away, who's your Stanley Cup favorite before the deadline?
I like Colorado, and I think the West is a little weaker than the East. I think Colorado will have an easier trip to not saying anything's easy. And Colorado lost last year when I probably thought they were going to make the Stanley Cup final. But Colorado, their team's so deep. All 4 lines play well. They get goal scoring. Goaltending still a little questionable, but I think the team's good enough. I think Darcy Kemper will figure it out. I think Darcy Kemper's a good goaltender. Cale Makar's going to win the Norris. He's having an awesome year again. I just love their team. I like them. I like Carolina. That might have been last night a Stanley Cup, last night.
I'd sign up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Carolina, the 2 teams that just play hard hockey.
Yeah.
Great hockey. They're fun to watch. I like Colorado. I like Carolina. Florida just scores goals. So, you can't count them out. They just score so many goals. It's insane.
Yeah.
And like, every game you turn on 10 minutes in, it's 3-0, 2-0, 3-0 Florida. If I had, I'm going to go Colorado though, at least Colorado out of the West. I'm confident with saying.
Yeah. The East is tough, because I agree. There's so many good teams. Florida, Tampa. Carolina, even the Rangers could sneak up with somebody. So like you never know out east. Little breaking news here for us. Las Vegas Raiders signed Pro Bowl defensive end Max Crosby to a 4-year, $95 million extension. So he's staying long-term in Vegas. Good signing for Vegas and good for him.
Yeah, no, I like that deal. I think, just hearing that now, I think that's a good move for Vegas. Good player. And they need to, for Vegas, they're going to have an opportunity now, I think, to get more free agents and sign players. People like being in Vegas, right? It's the Golden Knights, right? It's Vegas, baby, Vegas, right? So I like the signing, and I mean, it's been a crazy week in the NFL, so that's a good signing for the Raiders.
Yeah, let's get into that for a second. More surprising that Aaron Rodgers didn't go to Denver or that Russell Wilson ended up in Denver?
I think more surprising that Russell Wilson ended up there, because I honestly didn't think that Rodgers was going to end up anywhere other than Green Bay.
Same here. Yeah.
I just think Green Bay can give him more money, like we just saw.
Yeah.
He just got the bag. So
yeah, a little bit.
He lost the fiance, but got the money. So
I'll take the cash.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving on. But I just didn't see him leaving Green Bay. I really didn't. He's the king there. He can do what he wants, and he can say the outrageous things there, and no one's going to get too upset about it at the end of the day in Green Bay. They still have a really good football team. He's working with one of the best.
Division.
Still playing the division, which is a weak division. You're playing, you still got Devontae Adams, hopefully. I think it's smart on his end. I think it's smart for Green Bay because, Love hasn't really shown anything, and the draft class this year is weak. I'm not really surprised about Russell. It's tough on that because Seattle was saying they didn't want to move him, but where there's smoke, there's fire. And you look at the deal, and to me, the deal made sense for both teams.
Agreed.
So that's just a football trade right there. That's a sports trade that benefits both teams. I think Denver got better. I think they needed a quarterback, and Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. He's going to help their team. He's better than what they've had there since Peyton Manning. Mm-hmm. So that's going to help their team. And Seattle's going nowhere next year. All right, Seattle's was getting worse. So to me, they pick up first-round picks. I think it's a great move for both teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned Denver. We'll touch on Denver, and then we'll go to Seattle. But Denver's so desperate. Like they couldn't go through another offseason where they passed on quarterbacks in the draft last year. They couldn't, as much as we love, fan favorite of the podcast. I know we're a big fan of his. They couldn't have a porn star Jimmy season. Like, as much as we love him, it couldn't be Jameis or him. I think they needed a brand name at quarterback. Mm-hmm. And even with the trade writer, I still think they're like the third best team in the division because I like the Chargers a lot.
Oh, we talked about that division. Yeah, it's a tough division, right?
Yeah.
It's murderer's row in that division, really. And Denver, don't get me wrong, their defense is top 5 in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And they have great special teams. And bringing in Wilson, they're going to be able to sell some jerseys now, right? Like they're going to be able to. They have a quarterback. They're going to be able to rally around him. Do I think he's going to bring them over the hump? I don't. Tough division. Like though you're in a dogfight every night there in that division. So I like the move though on Denver. At least this move will kind of give the fan base the sense of, hey, they're trying here. Like they see that we have potential. It's a good move at the right time. Will it pay off? We'll see. But like I said, I like the move for Seattle too. So
yeah. No, yeah, Seattle, like you said, they weren't winning anything. Well, Russell wasn't winning anything there. They get picks. Drew Lock's thrown in there that he can play this year, lose games, get a high draft pick. And they get Denver's pick, and Denver is the 9th pick in the draft, so they're going to get a high player there as well. So that's a good little pick to have. Where does Seattle go? Because they got Metcalf, they got Lockett. Like they have some players. They got rid of Bobby Wagner, but I could see more of a fire sale from them this offseason because why keep DK Metcalf on a roster if you're not going to compete?
Well, especially with the position he plays, if you don't have someone who can get him the ball, his value is only going to go down.
Right.
To me, I think you don't like saying this, but I think it's a full fire sale. I think you trade everyone right now. If you're going to be bad, right? Especially we see in the NFL, you can turn it around quick.
Yes.
Be bad, get stockpile draft picks, have 2 good drafts in a row. Have a good draft this year, have a good draft next year. Mm-hmm. And in 2-3 years' time, can be right back in the mix. But I mean, Seattle had a good run there of 5-6 years.
A decade, you know, they missed the playoffs once in a decade with Russell Wilson.
Exactly. So it's not like they made it, it's not like they made it to a Super Bowl and then didn't do anything after that. Like they had they won one, they lost another one. They should have won against the Patriots. Yeah. They should have 2. They have 1. And they had 10 years of successful football. So if I'm a fan base, you can't get too upset with start a full rebuild. I think it's necessary and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, totally agree. They needed to make that move. What'd you make of Khalil Mack joining the Chargers?
I think you like it for the Chargers. I think you love it. I still think he's got some good football left in him.
Me too, especially with Joey Bosa getting double teams on the other side.
100%. You look at the Rams, what they did at the deadline, right? They have both sides. That's what you need. One guy double team. Khalil Mack's been double teamed his whole life.
Yep.
He is not going to be double teamed anymore. He's going to have one-on-one coverage. So he's going to make things happen because Joey Bosa's one of the best players in the league. So he's going to be covered. So they're going to double team him. It's Khalil Mack. This is an opportunity for him to throw up, to me, 15 sacks. Honestly, I think he'd go out for a massive year.
And I think if you're the Chargers, we're talking about the division, how daunting it is. But you can't come into this afraid. You can't say, oh, Mahomes is there, Russell Wilson, Super Bowl champs. You got to be like, hey, this is our time too. Like we got Justin Herbert. I like that they got Mack. They re-upped Mike Williams. Keenan Allen's still there. I like to see them get a better tight end. But I like that they're being aggressive and saying, you know what, we're winning next year. Screw what these other teams are doing. We're just as good as them. And that's the mindset they should have.
Absolutely. I'd love to see them make a move for one more receiver.
Yeah.
One big, I'd say a number one or number 2 receiver. I think their team's good enough. Justin Herbert.
Maybe Lockett.
Yeah, maybe Lockett's the guy. I don't know if Seattle would want to do that, but maybe Lockett. I love Lockett. He puts up big numbers, and that potentially could be a guy right there.
Yeah, I like the Chargers a lot, and this division's so crazy right here because now Derek Carr, who I know we both think is a pretty good quarterback, is the worst quarterback in the division.
Yeah, and that just showed. I mean, Derek Carr's a top 15 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Well, I know for me and you, he is anyway. He's a great quarterback.
He made the playoffs last year.
Exactly. So, I mean, I had him at MVP. So at the start of the year, at one point, it was half looking like it could happen. So
yeah.
Until it turned in a quick way. It escalated quickly.
The Gruden hacks.
It escalated quickly, but it's a strong division, and it's going to make for good football in that division. Probably the best division in the league now.
I think so. I think the AFC West and the NFC West.
Yeah, agreed.
Because San Francisco is going to be interesting because I think they're going to be fun to watch with Trey Lance, or do they go after your guy, number 12, the senior citizen? Do they lure him out of retirement?
I don't think so. I think they go Trey Lance. I don't see.
They're so close to a super. That roster's loaded.
I don't see Brady coming back at the start of the year. Now,
but that's the only way you should come back in football because you gotta be ready with your receivers.
I know. But I don't think he comes back. I don't. Right. At least 1 year. I don't see it. I don't see it now.
Want to put a bet on it?
Yes, I do because I would love to see him come back.
Okay, well, I think he's gonna.
Okay, well, I say
I already owe you 20, so let's put double or nothing.
Well, let's double or nothing then. So because either way, I'm happy because if he comes back, then
and I'll say by about the third week of training camp.
I'll give you till the start of the season.
Okay, fair enough.
Deal. Till the start of the season. All right, I like it. I mean, it's a win-win for me, really.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, their roster is loaded. Like if you're San Francisco, you're going to try every trick in the book to get Brady back. I think you put Brady on that team, they're Super Bowl favorite. I do believe that.
100%. Debo and Kittle is Gronk, not like in the old days. And they just re-signed Jawan Jennings the other day. He's really good. Like he's really a quietly good receiver. Yeah, Fred Warner's, oh my God, he's such a good player. You got Nick Bosa, who's playing. I mean, that team's just loaded. I mean, It would be fun with Trey Lance, but I think you look at San Fran, the NFC is so, I mean, it's weak right now. You look, the Rams got to feel good. Packers got to feel good. Other than those two teams, who else is really Arizona? Maybe they feel pretty good about their chances, but I don't think
Arizona feels good at all with what's happening there.
Right.
There's some problems in that organization right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's coming down to, where it's boiling from, but I think there's some problems there.
Yeah. Kyler and they got to figure that out.
Still have a good team though. Like they have a good roster. It's just, I don't know. You don't like seeing that stuff in the offseason if you're a fan of the team.
No, it's hard to be positive going into the start of the season. That's for sure. Carson Wentz, the Washington football team to me. I hate the new name. WFT Carson Wentz. Does this just reek of desperation from the Washington football team?
The Washington Commanders.
Yeah,
I kind of like the Washington football team better.
Me too.
I was kind of
great.
Yeah, I was kind of catching on, man. The crazy thing is when they traded for him, the odds of them winning the Super Bowl went down. Normally, when you trade for a quarterback, they go up. They went down.
Oh my God, that's such a kick in the pills.
It reeks of desperation. It's I just don't. Man, to me, I think Trevor Heineke would be fine.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing here? I don't.
He doesn't cost you $28 million over 3 seasons.
I just don't get that. I mean, didn't last year show that Indianapolis, if they had anyone in quarterback, would have had a much better team? Like Carson Wentz was the death of that Indianapolis Colts team. So
right.
I hate the move. I mean, I guess you need to have a quarterback, but I don't know. I don't like it.
I got 2 pieces of breaking news.
Okay. Breaking news.
First one, Deshaun Watson, Texans quarterback, avoids criminal charges over sexual assault allegations. So that means he'll likely be, he might have to pay some fines or something, but he won't be going to jail. So he could be back in the league next year, which is big. He'd be the next domino to get moved here.
Both of us said that he's a top 5 quarterback in the league when we made our, last time I was on there on the old setup. We both had him in our top 5, so that's big news for the league.
And I don't know where he goes. I said the other day maybe Tampa. If Brady's gone, they could make a push for him. Maybe Carolina, I'm sure would want him, but I don't think you're going to win if you go to Carolina. But so that's the first. This next one's juicier, even though it's Sean Watson.
Juicier, okay.
It's about NFL media.
Okay.
It's about Monday Night Football.
All right. What do we got?
Fox Sports broadcaster Joe Buck expected to join Troy Aikman on the mothership to call Monday Night Football.
Interesting.
That's big news, man. He's leaving Fox.
That's a big move.
That's a blockbuster there.
Right. So who's leaving Monday Night Football then?
Be Louis Riddick.
Yeah.
Steve Levy will probably, he'll leave. Greasy took a quarterback coach job. Yeah. So it'd be Buck and Aikman, and then they'll have the Manning cast too.
That's a big move.
That's a lot of money. Holy shit.
A lot of money, but they have to do something because you see the push Amazon's putting on to grow their football. Everyone's putting a push on for broadcasting. Broadcasting has become the new coaching.
Yeah.
Look at Sean McVay was almost being, lured in for a broadcasting role.
Right.
broadcast, there's big money in broadcasting. Tony Romo's really helped everyone make a lot of money in broadcasting.
They're saying Joe Buck's going to get about $15 million a year.
Well, it makes sense. Romo's getting $1 million a game, so
yeah.
Joe
Buck's worth. If Romo's getting 17, Buck should get at least what he gets. Buck's really, I think he's the best, quite frankly.
I mean, that's a great Monday Night Football. Now, if that happens, it'll be interesting to see for scheduling who they put Monday Night Football games.
Yeah, I think they'll get better games for sure because those two are so good. And now Fox, I mean, they lose both guys. I know for me, I'm promoting Greg Olsen. I think Greg Olsen's really good. It was his first year last year. He's not a big name, but I think he's really good at calling a game. So I'd have no problem with him and Kevin Burkhardt getting just promoted and them not, trying to get somebody else.
I thought Greg Olsen I watched a couple games he did last year. I thought he did a great job. He's a smart player. You hear them when he was playing a game talk about just a football guy. That guy's a football player, right? So anyone who's just said that, that's a good player and has a good football mind, I mean, throw him in the broadcasting booth. And he did a great job. I like that. I mean, who knows if they do it or not, but promoting him would be a good move for sure. And he's already in-house too, right? So
yes, exactly. Yeah. Wow. That's big. Like that's,
Now, is that confirmed or just rumors?
Andrew Marchand, who kind of covers the ins and outs of sports media, he's reporting that. So he normally gets his stuff right. But yeah, Joe Buck is going to join Troy Aikman. Will reportedly ink a contract in the neighborhood of 5 years and $60 to $75 million. He has 1 year and $11 million left in his Fox Sports deal.
Right. Wow. No, big move for sure. Big move.
So Aikman, he got 92. He got 18.5 a year.
It's big money, man. That's big money. to call 16 or to call 18 games and a few playoff games. That's some big money.
Does Aikman, like with that contract, do you think it's like, hey, we're giving you that, but you have to go on like First Take and Get Up and all these other shows too?
Man, Romo doesn't with CBS.
Yeah.
So
probably doesn't.
No, I don't think you have to. Geez, what a gig.
John Gruden didn't, I guess, when he did Monday Night Football. He didn't go on those shows.
No, it's big money. But
that must sting for Louis Riddick. He's gonna stay there.
100%, man. When because you're getting demoted.
Yeah.
You're not. It's like when you're playing on a team and you're the starting goalie and then they trade for a better guy. It's like, well, there it goes. Or even worse, you're the backup and they trade for a guy. Then you're in the stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's a Friday night little news dump.
I like it. I like it.
I like it too. Lots of news on this podcast tonight. Let's get to college basketball. Ryder, what the hell's going on? Today, we were texting last night, and then Auburn and Illinois lose today. Number one, it's chaos in college basketball right now.
It's nuts, and it's nuts. And normally, you see these upsets more in the madness than you do in the tournament.
Right.
In the actual tournaments, normally the best team wins these things. Like not even close. Like it's maybe I might see an upset here and there, but man, teams are getting knocked out left and right. But you know what? That also shows that this year there's been a lot of good teams losing. I mean, there was one night where the top 6 teams in the league all across the country all lost. Like when does that ever happen? So it's madness before the madness happens. It makes the basketball exciting because now you're watching these games and thinking anything can happen, anyone can win.
Right.
Now, who's going to be the 4 number 1 seeds? Beats the hell out of me. I mean, I can take a guess, but we might see Duke lose tonight. Arizona, to me, hasn't impressed me all year. They're 2. No. Baylor lost. They're at 3.
Yeah,
it's wild, but it's good that these tournaments leading up to the madness. They're exciting because does it really matter who wins them? Not really. Unless you're a team that comes out of nowhere and needs to like go on a deep run to get into
unless you need to win it to get into the tournament.
Exactly. But they're really kind of uneventful. But but this week's been awesome, so I'm into it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Texas is out, Baylor's out, Ohio State lost to Penn State in basketball. Come on. Texas A&M's just going through. I mean, it's chaos. Vanderbilt beat Alabama last time. It's craziness. So if you had to pick today, and again, there's still going to be results this week, and we could see upsets tonight. But who are your 4 number 1 seeds?
Gonzaga is number 1. They're the only team I think is guaranteed a 1 seed right now.
I think they'll be the overall number 1. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Gonzaga, just with the year they've had, they're going to be number 1. They will be a number 1 seed, whether it's number 1 overall or not, but they will be number 1. Kentucky's impressed me the most. I think I've probably watched Kentucky and Auburn. They seem to be on TV all the time. Auburn's getting worse and worse. You can count them out.
Yeah. They're not winning.
But Auburn was never meant to win. They were ranked not even the top 25 to start the year. So I like Kentucky. I think Kentucky finds a way. I think Kentucky wins their tournament.
Me too.
I do, especially with Auburn being out now. I think Kentucky wins the SEC. I like Kentucky. I think they have a really good team, and I think Oscar is so good on their team. He makes everything Tshiebwe. He makes everything happen. I think Duke. I think they want Duke to get a number 1 seed.
Oh, of course they do.
So I'm going to say Duke. They want Duke to have a number 1 seed.
Yes.
I think Duke is going to play UNC in the finals.
Me too.
I'd love to see that after what happened a week ago.
Me too.
Sign me up for that game. I think Duke, and then I'm going to say Kansas as well. I'm going to throw Kansas in there. Arizona's ranked number 2. I just have not been impressed with Arizona all year. And I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose.
I thought they were going to lose last night. Stanford was just all on their heels.
I do not see Arizona winning their conference tournament. So those are my 4. I'm going to go Gonzaga, Kentucky, Duke, and Kansas. But the only one I'm confident in is Gonzaga.
Yeah, agreed. I had Arizona in there just because if they win their tournament, they'll be a number 1 because they're number 2. But again, they might lose tonight for all we know. But Kentucky is why I think, honestly, I look at Kentucky and they might be my pick to win it all. They're really good. You mentioned Ashlebe's a beast in the paint. Nobody can guard him. He's a menace. Kansas is really good. They dominated yesterday. But I would say, Gonzaga, Kentucky. I agree with you. If Duke wins, I think Duke will replace Kansas. I think Kansas should win their tournament, but you never know. Texas Tech is always in there. They're always battling, and they got a pretty good team as well. But I think if Duke wins, they'll have Gonzaga, Duke, Kentucky, and Arizona. But if there's a change, I think Kansas will replace the team that loses their conference tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And it's tough because there's been a lot of good teams losing this year. So kind of hard to figure out what you got. And it's going to make the tournament really interesting. The madness is going to be awesome because I think you're going to see some 15s knock off 2s. And I think you might even see a 16 knock off a 1. I'm not going to put any money on it, but I'd say at least a 15 is going to knock off a 2 in the first round.
Right. Virginia is praying that a 16 can beat a 1, so they're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were embarrassed forever that year. Any kind of teams that you like that maybe won't be number 1s, but you think could be sneaky coming to the tournament?
Yeah, I got a couple. I got 2 teams right now. Iowa. You know me in Iowa.
I know you. Luka Garza.
Iowa's been buzzing. They've been playing their best basketball as of late. They steamrolled last night. They're gonna win again today. I just like what they're doing. And the thing about Iowa is last year there was so much hype around Iowa because of Luka Garza. They did have a good team, and it just didn't really work out. No one really talked about Iowa this year, and they still have a lot of returning players from last year. They have a good, solid core. They move the ball well. They play defense. I think they could, surprise some teams. The other team that has really turned it on as of late, struggled to start the year, is UNC. UNC, man, I'm telling, they could win. I think they're going to play Duke in the ACC final. I think they might win that tournament. And Duke UNC, man, they're getting no love, and they're a good good basketball team, and they're a program that has had a lot of success in March Madness.
Yeah, and I think they like that they're not getting any notoriety. They're quiet. They're just playing. They beat Duke, but it wasn't, North Carolina won. It was, they lost for Coach K. It was embarrassing.
Yes.
So, yeah, I like UNC too. I have a few here. I like Tennessee. They're starting to come on here late in the year. They beaten some good SEC. They beat Auburn a few weeks ago. They beat Alabama. So they've been beating some ranked teams. I think Tennessee is a team that could do some damage.
I have Tennessee to win tonight, -7.5.
I think they might win the SEC tournament now.
Yeah, I have them tonight -7.5 for sure.
They'll play. Yeah, they'll play Kentucky, right, tomorrow if they win.
Assuming Kentucky, yes, they will.
I hope that's the final. That'll be a good game. And I threw this one in for you because I thought of you, because I know you kind of like this school too. The Boilermakers.
The Boilermakers, baby, Purdue. So Purdue got off to a really good start, and then they had a really tough stretch in the middle of the year. But they had players out. They had players out with COVID. Purdue's a good basketball team.
Yeah,
I like that pick a lot. Good call, Noah. Good call.
I think the Big Ten's got some really good schools, quite frankly. I mean, Purdue, I think, is good. I think Illinois lost today, but I do think they're good. They're not going to be an easy team to beat. So it's going to be interesting because do you like a tournament that has a team you go in, you're like, okay, this team should win, like Gonzaga last year, you could say, because they were so elite? Or do you like a more wide open field where you're like, let's just learn who's the good teams as we watch the games?
Well, I kind of like this year. I think last year last year we had an awesome tournament. So we were very lucky last year for the tournament that we got. But it was kind of the Gonzaga show the whole way through. We were talking about Gonzaga. We had a whole, big talk about 3 players off Gonzaga being the top 5 players in the tournament, right? So I kind of like this year because it gives you an idea to figure out who's going to make it all the way, where there's no one set team that I'm saying that team's in the Final Four.
Right.
I
agree.
I think Kentucky's good enough to get there, but
no lock.
We've seen no lock. We throw back to it. That one night we had the top 6 teams in the country all lose on the same night. So that just shows that.
Oddly enough, Gonzaga got to the final last year, but I think and this is so strange, I think they have a better chance of winning the tournament this year.
Yeah. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's I could see that happening.
What do you think of Holmgren? He's an interesting cat to watch.
Yeah, he's a different duck.
Yeah.
He's a different duck. I mean, hey, keeps it interesting out there, right? Gives you something to watch. I mean, you're on your seat watching. Let's see. I'll be watching him in the tournament. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I mean, 7 feet, might weigh like 130 pounds.
He is an absolute stick.
Yeah. But he can defend. Like he's a pretty good defender for that size. He's fun.
If you're an NBA team, I think you take a chance on him because at some point he's going to fill out, right? You get him in with your trainers. You get him. I mean, you just pump. He's the type of guy you can just tell him to eat everything all summer. Put weight on. I don't care if it's bad weight. Just put some on.
Yeah, get him a big 2-liter ice cream every day. Get it into him, and then hit the weight room and keep eating. I agree.
Good player, though.
Yeah, he's a really good player. But I mean, this weekend's game should be. That's what I'm focused on this weekend for sports that I watch. I like these tournament games this weekend. I mean, Wisconsin's a good team. They're kind of a sneaky good one. They play Michigan State tonight.
Yeah, and they also have
they should win, but
they have Johnny Davis. Wisconsin has Johnny Davis, who's arguably been the best player all year.
Right.
He maybe not the best player, but he's meant more to his team than I think anyone else in all college basketball has. Just because he does everything. He averages over 20 points a game, plays good defense. He's averaging like 3 steals a game, which is insane. He's just he's a freak of nature in a good way out there for Wisconsin. He makes everything happen. He's the straw that stirs the drink. So to me, Johnny Davis is a game changer for Wisconsin. So and Wisconsin's a fun team to watch. And Wisconsin's always had, pretty good success
teams.
in the tournament. They've made some Final Fours. They've had good teams. You don't want to be matched up with Wisconsin in the first round.
No. If you had to put money to win the tournament on Providence or Villanova, who would you put the money on?
Villanova. They've been there, done that. I know it's been
a couple years.
It's not the same team. It's been a while, right? Kyle Lowry was on the team, right? But it's been a while. But to me, Villanova always finds a way to somehow get to the Elite Eight.
Yes.
They're always in the Elite Eight. Like they seem to find a way to get there every year. So I mean, they're obviously not every year, but for the most part, Sweet 16, Elite Eight, they're there. So I'm gonna go Villanova. And I've watched Villanova play more this year, so I'm just a little bit more confident saying that because I've watched them more.
Providence is such a sneaky because they're probably going to be like a 3-4 seed, and Providence is a hockey school. That's what we think of when we hear Providence, and they've been really good all year.
I watched Providence play against Georgetown this year. I think it was Georgetown. Don't quote me on it. I think it was Georgetown, but they dominated. I've watched Providence only twice this year, but they move the ball well. They play good defense, and they're a sneaky team for sure. But if I had to pick, I'd still put Villanova. Villanova is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. So
they got a good program down there. They always seem to be able to compete no matter who's there, what players they have. Fun to get. I can't wait for the tournament. Like I said, this weekend will be fun. Tournament starts next week. You'll be back on. We'll talk about this more in depth as the tournament goes on. But this coming weekend, do you have any? What's your coaching duties like? What's your schedule like this weekend for champions? Otherwise,
it's we just had a busy week. March break camps, 4 days in a row. So I'm looking forward to tonight. Just kind of put my feet up, watching some college basketball and relaxing. Tomorrow, I'm actually gonna mix in some U18 AAA action. The Fredericton's hosting a little jamboree with all the major teams for tomorrow and Sunday. So Charlottetown is playing Moncton at 2:30, which to me, I hate to say this because I work with a lot of the players in Fredericton, but just standings wise, Moncton and Charlottetown seem to be the best two teams. So that's a game I'm going to look to catch. Then after that, Fredericton plays at 5, so I'll probably stick around for a bit of that. And then I'm kind of tossed up between either the UNB Stew game or the Bantam AAA game. A few options on tap, so it's going to be a day of watching hockey tomorrow, and then Sunday I got a game with my Bantam minor team and a little champions work. So it'll be a busy weekend, but a good weekend.
Nice. So a couple more weekends left for coaching.
We got play this weekend, then we play next weekend, and then we got a weekend off, and then provincials. So we got provincials April 7th to 10th, and in Moncton actually that weekend there's Pee Wee AAA provincials, Bantam minor provincials, and Bantam major provincials all at the fourplex. So it'll be good. I mean, to be able to just watch a lot of hockey that weekend. So
what that weekend is too, eh?
What's that?
The Masters.
I know. Yeah, you're right. Now, Tiger, does he play the Masters?
No,
I don't think so either.
No, I don't think yet. Maybe St. Andrews.
Yeah. There's rumors that he might play St. Andrews and retire. What are your thoughts on that?
Nice course to walk it off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame him if he did.
Hell no.
No.
I mean, hell no, man.
He's done more than enough for the sport of golf.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he does, though. I think he plays. I think
he wants to play the Masters again, and I don't think he'll be able to play it this year. So I don't think he'll hang him up this year.
No, I don't either. I don't think he hangs him up till. I think he's got a couple. Not saying he's got he'll never play a full tour again. He might play. I think he'll play like 4 or 5 events a year.
Yeah, he might. He'll play Riviera, his course, like the majors maybe, and like this weekend maybe the Players. He might want to play that one.
Yeah. He's going to play the majors and maybe 1 or 2 other ones, but that's it. But hopefully see him back this year. I think he'll be back for at least one tournament this year.
Yeah, I think he'll play at least one major this year, if not more than one.
Who do you like in the Masters?
It's hard to not pick somebody with experience there because it's such a. I mean, recency bias. Pick Scotty Scheffler. I mean, the guy's playing fantastic.
Yeah, he's on a heater.
It's hard not to. I'll say I'll say John Rahm because I think he's the best in the world, but I think a guy like Victor Hovland's going to win a major. I've said that. I don't know if he'll win the Masters, but I think he wins a major this year. So I'll say Rahm, but I do think Victor Hovland's really good, and I think he's on the cusp of winning a major in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I had him a couple weeks ago when he came second. I had him at 54-1 on a $3 bet, so it wasn't a big one, but I mean, still a nice payout. But I just couldn't get the job done. But he's always in the mix, man. Every tournament he's in the top 5, so it's only a matter of time.
Did you pick anybody for the Players this weekend, even though it's rain delayed all over the place?
No, I didn't get anyone this weekend for the Players. I'll probably hold off until the Masters. Just because March Madness, I'll be focused on March Madness over the coming weeks. But the Players, I haven't even been able to keep track of it because there's so many rain delays. I have no idea what's going on right now. I mean,
some guys haven't even finished their first round yet.
Right. I was trying to watch a little bit this afternoon, and it was just all over the place. And I turned it back on here earlier before I came on, and another rain delay. So it's
the earliest it's starting is tomorrow morning at 11.
Right. So it looks like I love a good Monday finish, though. It gives me something to do on a Monday.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. I might have to sneak that computer into work. But no, Ryder, always a pleasure, my friend. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk again soon with with March Madness on the horizon.
Awesome, buddy. Well, enjoy your weekend. Best of luck to your sister there. She's actually coaching one of our spring teams this year, so excited to have some of the Warren family in helping out with spring hockey, and maybe get you behind the bench one day on one of our teams.
Oof, I don't know if the kids could take it. But hey, some of my methods, they might just pull them the right way. Those kids might just start playing well. So, no, always a pleasure, man, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Jug. Have a good weekend, buddy.
You too. There's Matt Wright, everybody. Thanks for Ryder for coming on. He's always a pleasure to talk to, knows so much about sports. So he's a great friend and great guy to come on the podcast. And great week here on To The Point. I hope you guys all enjoyed you guys interacting. Continue to do that in the comments section. Send me feedback if you want me to talk about anything. We'll get into baseball as the spring training starts to come through and things of that nature. Break any more, you get live show tonight. You get some news on football and sports media, so that's fun as well. So be back Monday. NHLer Brad Malone will join me for an interview. So that should be a ton of fun. So get ready for that Monday around 5:40, 5:45. So have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. This is To The Point.